The hum of the engines was the only sound in the dimly lit bridge of the ardent dawn. Captain Marcus Thorne leaned forward in his seat, eyes fixed on the screen as the ship's sensors flared with alarms. His calm, measured voice cut through the tension. "Lieutenant Jenna, report," Marcus ordered, his gaze flicking to his second-in-command. Jenna's fingers flew across her console, her face pale in the glow of the monitors. "We've crossed into restricted space, Captain. The coordinates don't match any known star maps. We're in uncharted territory." A ripple of unease passed through the crew. Marcus's jaw tightened. The Ardent Dawn was a seasoned exploration vessel, but they had never ventured into a region so completely devoid of data. This was no ordinary detour. "Dr. Ellis, what's your assessment?" Marcus asked, turning to the ship's scientist. Dr. Ellis adjusted his glasses, his eyes alight with curiosity despite the circumstances. "The energy readings here are off the charts. We've never seen anything like it. I'd wager we're close to something significant, something the Galactic Council has kept hidden for a reason." Before Marcus could respond, the ship's AI chimed in with a cold, metallic voice. "Unidentified vessel approaching. Energy signatures consistent with high-level weaponry. Estimated time to contact, 3 minutes. Battle stations," Marcus commanded, his tone steady but firm. The crew moved with practiced precision, securing their positions and preparing for the worst. On the main screen, a massive alien warship materialized, its hull bristling with weapons. It dwarfed the Ardent Dawn, casting a shadow that seemed to swallow the smaller vessel whole. The insignia on its side was unmistakable, the mark of the Zender Dominion, one of the most feared military powers in the galaxy. A voice crackled through the comms, harsh and guttural. "Human vessel, you have violated Zender sovereign space. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." The crew's tension was palpable. Marcus stared at the screen, his mind racing. The Zender were notorious for their ruthlessness, and there would be no mercy for intruders. But surrender was not an option. He had to think quickly. "Lieutenant Jenna, open a channel," Marcus said, his voice a calm facade over the turmoil within. "Let's see if we can buy ourselves some time." Jenna nodded, her fingers moving swiftly. "Channel open, Captain." Marcus leaned forward, addressing the Zender commander. "This is Captain Marcus Thorne of the Ardent Dawn. We apologize for the incursion. Our navigation systems malfunctioned. We mean no harm and request safe passage out of your territory." A tense silence followed, broken only by the steady hum of the ship's systems. The Zender warship loomed closer, its weapons locking onto the Ardent Dawn. The alien commander's voice returned, laced with suspicion. "You lie, human. Your kind does not wander aimlessly into forbidden zones. We will give you one chance to prove your intentions. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Marcus's heart pounded, but his expression remained unreadable. Powering down would leave them defenseless. His mind raced, searching for an alternative. They needed a plan, and they needed it fast. "Jenna, Dr. Ellis, with me," Marcus said, rising from his seat. "The rest of you, maintain battle readiness. We're not giving up without a fight." As they moved to the strategy room, Marcus's thoughts churned. They were trapped in a deadly game, one wrong move away from obliteration. But Marcus had never been one to back down, and he wasn't about to start now. The chapter ends with the ominous approach of the Zender boarding party, the tension rising as Marcus prepares to play a dangerous hand. The fate of the Ardent Dawn hangs in the balance, and the true nature of the forbidden space remains a tantalizing mystery. The lights in the strategy room flickered, casting long shadows across the metal walls. Marcus stood at the head of the table, his eyes scanning the holographic display of the Zender warship. The crew had gathered, their expressions a mix of determination and anxiety. "Options?" Marcus asked, breaking the tense silence. His voice was calm, but the urgency was unmistakable. Jenna was the first to speak, her tone clipped and professional. "We're outgunned and outnumbered. Any direct confrontation will end in our destruction. We need to outthink them." Dr. Ellis leaned forward, his fingers tapping on the table. "The energy readings we picked up earlier, they're not just anomalies. They could be a natural defense mechanism of this region. If we can harness it, we might have a way to level the playing field. Marcus narrowed his eyes, intrigued. Explain. The readings suggest a massive energy field, one that distorts both space and time. Ellis continued, his voice gaining momentum. If we can redirect that energy toward the Zender's ship, we could disable their systems, at least temporarily. Jenna frowned. But that's a huge risk. We don't fully understand this energy field. It could backfire. Marcus considered this, weighing their options. Every instinct told him that this was their best shot, even if it was a gamble. He turned to his crew, his decision made. We're going for it, he said, his voice firm. Ellis, start working on a way to channel that energy. Jenna, coordinate with engineering to make sure the ship can handle the surge. We'll only get one shot at this, so it has to be perfect. The crew dispersed, each member diving into their tasks with renewed focus. Marcus remained in the strategy room, his thoughts racing. The pressure of command was heavy, but it was a weight he had carried before. He trusted his crew, trusted their expertise and their loyalty. But the stakes had never been this high. As the minutes ticked by, the ardent dawn hummed with activity. The air was thick with tension, the sound of hurried footsteps and terse conversations filling the corridors. Marcus watched the countdown on the screen, his jaw set in determination. Finally, Jenna's voice crackled through the comms. Captain, we're ready. The energy field is aligned with our systems. We're just waiting for your command. Marcus took a deep breath, his mind clear. All hands brace for impact. Engage the field. The ship shuddered as the energy field surged through its systems, a low hum building to a deafening roar. On the main screen, the Zender warship loomed closer, its weapons charging for a final strike. For a moment, time seemed to stretch, the space between the two ships pulsating with unseen power. Then, in a flash of blinding light, the energy field erupted, a massive wave cascading toward the Zender vessel. The ship trembled violently as its systems shorted out, the lights flickering before plunging into darkness. The Zender warship faltered, its weapons silenced, drifting powerless in space. A cheer erupted from the crew, but Marcus remained focused. Status report, he ordered, his voice cutting through the celebration. Jenna's voice was steady as she responded. The Zender ship is disabled, Captain. Their systems are down, and they're dead in the water. Marcus allowed himself a small smile, but the victory was bittersweet. They had bought themselves time, but the danger was far from over. The Zender were known for their resilience, and they wouldn't stay down for long. Keep monitoring their systems, Marcus instructed. And prepare for their next move. We're not out of this yet. The chapter ends with the ardent dawn hovering over the disabled Zender warship, the crew tense but hopeful. The natural rise in tension leaves the reader on edge, anticipating the next challenge that lies ahead. The bridge of the ardent dawn was eerily quiet, save for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Marcus stood at the center, his eyes locked on the Zender warship, which drifted listlessly in space. The victory they had won felt hollow, a temporary reprieve rather than a decisive triumph. Captain, the Zender are attempting to reboot their systems, Jenna reported, her voice steady but edged with concern. Her fingers danced over the control panel, bringing up live data on the screen. They'll be operational in under an hour. Marcus frowned, his mind racing. They had mere minutes to act before the Zender regained full strength. We need to ensure they don't get that chance, he said, his voice low but resolute. Ellis, still at his station, turned to face Marcus. We could overload their power core. If we synchronize our weapon systems with the residual energy field, we might be able to create a chain reaction within their ship. Marcus considered the proposal, weighing the risks. And if it fails? Their ship will stabilize, and we'll have lost our advantage, Ellis admitted. But if it works, their warship will be neutralized for good. The room felt charged, the air thick with anticipation. Marcus knew the decision he made now would determine the fate of his crew, and perhaps the entire sector. He met the eyes of his officers, seeing the same resolve reflected in their gazes. "Prepare the synchronization," Marcus ordered. "Jenna, I want every weapon system we have ready to fire on my command. No mistakes." The crews sprang into action, their movements precise and coordinated. The tension on the bridge was palpable, each second ticking by with agonizing slowness. Marcus paced, his mind a whirl of calculations and contingency plans. He could feel the weight of command, the burden of responsibility pressing down on him. "Captain," Jenna's voice broke the silence. "The synchronization is complete. All systems are locked and ready." Marcus nodded, his expression unreadable. "On my mark," he said, his voice calm and steady. 3, 2, 1, fire. The ardent dawn unleashed a barrage of energy beams, each one charged with the residual power of the cosmic field. They lanced through the void, striking the Zender warship with pinpoint accuracy. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the enemy vessel shuddered violently, its power core beginning to destabilize. On the screen, the Zender's ship's energy readings spiked, fluctuating wildly as the chain reaction took hold. Sparks flew from its hull, and fires erupted along its surface. The warship, once an indomitable force, now seemed on the verge of implosion. "Status?" Marcus asked, his voice cutting through the tense silence. Jenna's eyes scanned the data rapidly. "The reaction is escalating. They're losing control of their systems. It's only a matter of time before they go critical." Marcus felt a surge of hope but kept his expression neutral. "Keep monitoring. We can't afford any surprises." The Zender's ship continued to writhe in space, its structure buckling under the strain. Inside, Marcus knew the enemy crew would be scrambling to contain the disaster, but their efforts were in vain. The ship's power core finally gave out, erupting in a silent, brilliant explosion that illuminated the dark expanse of space. The bridge erupted in cheers, but Marcus remained focused. "Stand down, everyone. Let's make sure there are no other threats in the vicinity." The crews settled back into their stations, the adrenaline slowly ebbing away. Marcus allowed himself a moment of satisfaction but quickly pushed it aside. The Zender might be defeated for now, but the war was far from over. "Well done," he said, his voice carrying across the bridge. "But we're not out of the woods yet. Let's get back to base and regroup. We need to be ready for whatever comes next." As the ardent dawn turned and began its journey back to friendly space, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the Rio battle had only just begun. The tension that had momentarily lifted returned, heavier than before. They had won this round, but the cost of victory was always high. The chapter concludes with the ship heading back to base, the crews silent but alert. Marcus's unease lingers, leaving the reader with a sense of anticipation for the coming conflict. The ardent dawn glided silently into the docking bay of the human outpost, its hull scorched but intact. Marcus stepped off the ship, the weight of the last mission still heavy on his shoulders. The victory over the Zender warship was a temporary reprieve, but the war was far from over. As his boots clanged against the metal floor, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. "Captain, Commander Reeves is waiting for you in the briefing room," Jenna informed him as she fell into step beside him. Her tone was calm, but there was a tightness around her eyes that Marcus had never seen before. Marcus nodded, his thoughts already on the next step. "Thanks, Jenna. Get the crew some rest and run a full diagnostic on the ship. We can't afford any surprises." Jenna peeled off toward the control room, and Marcus made his way to the briefing room. The corridor was lined with holographic displays, showing real-time updates on the ongoing conflict across the galaxy. Each battle, each loss, weighed on him, a reminder of the burden of command. When Marcus entered the room, Commander Reeves was already at the table, a holographic map of the sector flickering before him. His stern face softened slightly as he saw Marcus, but the tension in the air was palpable. "Good work out there, Marcus," Reeves began, gesturing for him to sit. "But we've got a bigger problem. The Zender's attack wasn't an isolated incident." Marcus frowned, leaning forward. "What do you mean?" Reeves tapped the console, zooming in on a specific region of space. Intelligence reports indicate a new Zender fleet massing here, near the border of our territory. They're not just regrouping, they're preparing for a full-scale invasion. The revelation hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. The recent victory, as hard-fought as it was, now seemed insignificant. Why weren't we aware of this sooner? Reeves' expression darkened. We've been compromised. Someone within our ranks has been feeding the Zender information. They knew exactly where to hit us, and this next attack will be even more precise. The room felt suddenly colder, the implications chilling. A traitor within their own ranks. It was the worst kind of betrayal. Do we have any leads? Marcus asked, his voice tight with controlled anger. We have a few suspects, Reeves replied. But it's going to take time to confirm. We need you to take the Ardent Dawn and head to this location. He pointed to a distant star system on the map. To intercept the fleet before they launch their invasion. Marcus stared at the map, the gravity of the situation sinking in. And the traitor? We'll handle that here, Reeves assured him. Your priority is to stop that fleet. If they break through, it'll be the end for us. Marcus stood, his resolve hardening. We won't let that happen. Reeves nodded, a rare flicker of respect in his eyes. I know you won't. Take whatever you need, but move fast. Every second counts. As Marcus left the briefing room, his mind was already racing through strategies. The traitor's betrayal burned at him, but he pushed the anger aside. There would be time for that later, if they survived. For now, the mission was all that mattered. Back on the bridge, Jenna and Ellis were already preparing the ship for departure. We're headed to the outer sector, Marcus announced, his voice steady. A Zender fleet is massing, and we're going to stop them. Ellis looked up, his face grim. And the traitor? Marcus met his gaze, the tension in the room thick. We'll deal with that when the time comes. Right now, we focus on the mission. The Ardent Dawn rumbled as it powered up, the crew moving with practiced precision. Marcus took his place in the captain's chair, the weight of command settling on him once more. As the ship lifted off, he couldn't help but wonder if the traitor was watching, waiting for their moment to strike. But for now, he had a war to fight. And he intended to win it. The chapter ends with the Ardent Dawn speeding toward the looming threat, the tension of the coming battle and the unknown traitor hanging heavy in the air, leaving the reader eager for what comes next. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. I promise you, nothing will happen to your finger.